Hello students, today I have again come in front of you with a new chapter. So today I have come with class 12. So we are going to start chapter 8, that is Biomechanics and Sports. Students, we all are well aware that how important is biomechanics, what is the role of biomechanics in enhancing the sports performance. Now in the present era, not only the strength, not only the potentiality, the skills matters. Now, along with potentiality, along with skills, biomechanics plays a very vital role in enhancing the sports performance. So we will be dealing all the necessary things related to biomechanics under this chapter, Biomechanics and Sports. So I welcome you all to the online class of Physical Education class 12 students. So let's start. First of all, we will be understanding the content, that what are all the things we are going to discuss under the chapter 8, that is Biomechanics and Sports. So first and foremost, we will be understanding about the general meaning of biomechanics. What biomechanics mean. Followed by that, we will also discuss what are the various importance of biomechanics in physical education and sports. After that, we will be discussing various types of movements. Now when we talk of various types of movements, basically there are 4 types of movements. They are flexion, extension, abduction and adduction. Last but not the least, we will be discussing about Newton's law of motion and their applications in games and sports. Since students, we are discussing the subject physical education, so here whatever we will be discussing, here we will be discussing them according to the or in point of view of games and sports. So let us start. As you can see in the slide, that meaning of biomechanics. So what biomechanics mean? So biomechanics is the study and analysis of human movement pattern in sports. So what is biomechanics? Biomechanics is the study and analysis of human movement pattern in sports, is called biomechanics. So different movement patterns that is taking place when an individual is performing any skill. The study of all various movement patterns in games and sports are known as biomechanics. The study of the structure and functions of biological systems such as humans, animals, plants, organs and cells by means of the methods of mechanics. So if you see students, the term biomechanics, it is the adjoining of 2 words, that is bio and mechanics, where bio means living organisms and mechanics is the branch of physics which deals with various movements. So it is the combination of various movement pattern. The application of mechanical laws in living structure can also be termed as biomechanics. Moving ahead, students. So in the next slide, we are going to discuss about various importance of biomechanics in physical education and games and sports. So the first importance of biomechanics, which we can see in the slide, is it helps in improving technique. That means biomechanics helps in improving the techniques of the sports persons. Now, how they are going to help in improving the techniques? So first and foremost, it helps in correcting and rectifying if there is any dip in performance. So biomechanics will be helping in analyzing, in assessing that why there is a dip, why the sports performance is declining. So correcting and rectifying the errors. Next is discover new and more effective technique for performing a sports skills. So new efforts, new techniques will also be discovered, will be invented with the help of biomechanics, which will suit different sports persons. Next is Fosbury flop and straddle technique, students. Now these two are the skills which one adopt in high jump. As you all are well aware, in athletics there are three types of events: track events, field events. Now under field events there are throwing events, jumping events. So in jumping event, high jump is one of the event. So this Fosbury flop and straddle technique, they are related to high jump. Actually students, what happened? This straddle technique was the earlier traditional technique which generally all the athletes use during performing high jump. But it was observed that by using straddle technique, the athletes are unable to cover maximum height in high jump. So in late 1960s, an athlete known as Dick Fosbury, he invented a technique of his own. Later on, that technique was named after his name. That is Fosbury flop technique. And with the use of Fosbury flop technique, it was observed that the high jumpers can clear more heights in high jump. The specialty in the Fosbury flop technique is the mass of the body remains below the bar in high jump. That is the key why athletes, why the high jumpers can clear maximum heights with the help of Fosbury flop technique. So this is how biomechanics is helping in improving technique, children. So this is simply one of the example that change of technique with the help of biomechanics. Earlier the traditional technique, that is straddle technique, was used by the high jumpers, but they were not able to get lot of success. So with the invention of Fosbury flop technique, high jumpers can clear more heights. That is, change of technique helps in better performance. Moving to next importance, that is number 2, helps in improving equipment. That means biomechanics helps in the improvement of equipments also. Nowadays, equipments plays a very vital role when it comes to the performance level. Helps in improving the design of the equipment. So biomechanics is helping in making proper design of equipments so that it is going to help the sports persons. Shoes and sports clothes design improved with the help of biomechanics only. Better equipment improves performance level and reduces the risk of injury. Better rackets in racket game. Racket games like badminton, table tennis, lawn tennis, etc. etc. So, better design of rackets can enhance the performance in racket games also. Better helmets to reduce risk of injury in games like cricket, in games like the famous game of America, what is it? Baseball. Aerodynamic clothing in skiing. Skiing is an event, students, which is usually performed in over the ice. So aerodynamic clothing in skiing, in swimming, you must have noticed that the athletes are wearing the costume that is very much skinny. It is very much attached with the skin. The reason behind it is air or water might create friction which can hinder their performance level. That is why aerodynamic clothings are used. Speed skating, cycling, swimming, etc. etc. These are the sports where the aerodynamic clothings are being used. Moving ahead to another importance of biomechanics, that is the third importance, is biomechanics helps in improving the performance level. How biomechanics helps in improving the performance? Now when there is a development, there is an improvement in the quality of equipments, naturally, in turn it will going to help the performance level to enhance. That is, by utilizing biomechanics to improve the techniques. We have seen with the change in technique, that is from straddle technique to Fosbury flop technique, the high jumpers can clear more heights. So that is an example of change in techniques. Next is by utilizing biomechanics to improve equipments. So when equipments are being improved, the quality of equipments have been improved, then the outcome will be better performance, because it is going to support the sports persons in enhancing their performance level. Next is by utilizing biomechanics to reduce the risk of sports related injuries. So with the inclusion of biomechanics, the risk of injury to sports persons also get reduced. Reduced risk, sports persons can participate with risk-free, with less tension, because the sports gears, the safety sports gears, they are going to boost the confidence level, boost the willpower of the sports persons. Moving ahead towards the fourth importance, that is helps in preventing injuries, the thing that we were discussing. Identifies the cause of injury. Biomechanics helps in identifying the root cause of injury. It helps in process of rehabilitation. So biomechanics also helps in the process of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation means to regain the lost fitness level. Whatever exercises, whatever activities are performed by the sports persons after getting a recovery from injury, these all exercises to regain the lost fitness level are termed as rehabilitation exercises. So by identifying the cause and rehabilitation exercises, changes are made in techniques, equipments to reduce the risk of sports related injuries. So moving ahead to next importance of biomechanics, the fifth one, that is biomechanics helps in the improvement of training. So they are proving immense benefit during training period. How biomechanics is helping during training period? mechanical analysis of technical deficiencies. So all the movements performed by an athlete, performed by a sports person is being recorded, and mechanical analysis is done by the coaches, trainers. They see each and every sports movement performed by the sports persons during training period, and if any error they find, they try to rectify it. That is, mechanical analysis is done, and mechanical analysis is done with the help of biomechanics only. The weak areas may be strengthened. I told you, after undergoing the mechanical analysis, after seeing the videos, so necessary changes are being made. Customized training can be imparted to the sports persons. Earlier times, these facilities were not present, students. Now, with the introduction of latest gadgets, sports has reached a peak position nowadays. Next, the next importance of biomechanics is biomechanics helps in improving teaching and learning process. So biomechanics also helps in improving the teaching and learning process. Biomechanics helps in moving the body with precision. Means biomechanics helps in the movement of smooth movement of athlete's body. If the athlete's body is unnecessarily moving to any direction, that is, consumption of more energy takes place. But when an athlete's body is moving in a precise manner, that means consumption of less energy will be taking place. Understanding of biomechanics helps the teacher to take right decision. Understanding of biomechanics helps sports persons to learn his weaker areas. So many benefits of biomechanics we have understood, students. If we just go to recap, the first importance we have understood of biomechanics is helps in improving the technique. This is the difference of straddle and Fosbury flop technique. The next importance we have understood, that is biomechanics helps in improving the quality of equipments. The third importance we have understood, that biomechanics helps in improving the performance of sports persons. The fourth importance of biomechanics we have understood, that it helps in prevention of injuries. The fifth importance we have understood as biomechanics helps in the improvement or in training. And the last one, the sixth importance of biomechanics we have understood, that it helps in improving teaching and learning process. So we have covered the first part, or you can say the concept of biomechanics and its importance, students. So moving ahead to another part of the chapter, that is body movements. We are going to discuss various body movements. Now, some of the key factors, or you can say the 5 golden rules of skeletal muscles activity. Whatever movements are taking place in our body, they are taking place only with the help of skeletal muscles. So, the 5 golden rules of skeletal muscles we are going to just understand, students. The first one is, with a few exceptions, all skeletal muscles cross at least one joint. what the first golden rule is telling? That with few exceptions, if we leave out some of the cases, rest maximum cases, all skeletal muscles cross at least one joint during movement. Next, second one is the bulk of skeletal muscles lies proximal to joints crossed. All skeletal muscles have at least two attachments. What are those two attachments? They are the origin and the insertion. Skeletal muscles can only pull. Skeletal muscles can only pull. They never push. Skeletal muscles can only pull. They never push. The last golden rule states that during contraction, a skeletal muscle's insertion moves towards the origin. So during contraction of muscles, skeletal muscles insertion moves towards the origin. So these are the 5 golden rules of our skeletal muscles, students. Yes, students. In the next slide, we are going to discuss the relationship between muscles and body movements. So, movement results when muscles move an attached bone. So, we are going to discuss the relationship between muscles and various body movements. So, the first relationship is movement occurs when muscle moves an attached bone, then only movement is possible. The second one is muscles are attached to at least 2 points. What are those 2 points? Those 2 points are origin and insertion. Origin means attachment to an immovable bone. Origin means attachment to an immovable bone, whereas insertion is the attachment to a movable bone. Insertion is attachment to a movable bone. This is the relationship between muscles and body movement, students. Moving ahead, so with the pictorial presentation, now these two students, origin, you see our forearm and insertion. So what we have understood? We have understood that origin means attachment to an immovable bone. So you see, whenever we move our hand, the lower portion is moving. The lower portion is insertion. You see, insertion, that is lower part of the forearm is moving. Is it moving? The upper part is not moving. So origin is attachment to an immovable bone. You can check. Attachment to an immovable bone is origin and attachment to a movable bone is insertion. So I have tried to give you a pictorial elaboration so that you can understand the thing. Next, types of ordinary body movements or types of body movements. The first one is flexion. Flexion. I am flexing my forearm. This is flexion. So what naturally occurs? You just observe. Okay? This is my forearm. I am flexing it. What are the changes you can observe, students? Decrease the angle of joint. You see, there is a decrease in the angle of joint. Brings two bones closer together. bones are coming closer together. Typical of hinge joint like knees and elbow. This is elbow. Similarly, I can flex my knees also. Now, extension. Extension is opposite of flexion. It is opposite to flexion. When I am releasing my forearm, it is extended. Increase in the angle between two bones. When flexion, angle between two bones is getting reduced. So extension means the increase in angle. The angle between two bones increases. Yes, students. Again you see, this is again a pictorial explanation of flexion and extension. As you can see here, the individual is flexing his knee. The angle is decreasing. Similarly, the forearm is being flexed. Now you see again, this is flexion. So again, when the leg is coming down, that is extension. As well as the hand movement also you see. I am flexing this. Again, when it is moving to its origin position, it is extension. Again, if I lift it back, it is again extension, students. I am bringing it, flexion, it is again going extension. Now, next is hyperextension. Hyperextension means when the angle becomes 180 degree. You see the pictorial explanation. The movement of head, that is from this position to this position. This is 180 degree movement. My head is tilting downward as well as it is moving back also. That is 180 degree movement. It is tilting in 180 degree. It is known as hyperextension. Now another type of movement is rotation. We rotate our neck from left to right. You see, this is rotation. Isn't it? So, movement of a bone around its longitudinal axis is known as rotation. What is rotation? Rotation is the movement of a bone around its longitudinal axis. Axis is my body. Common in ball and socket joints. Rotation is mainly found in ball and socket joints. Example is when you move atlas around the axis vertebra. Okay, when we are moving it, this is rotation. So, this ball and socket joint. Moving ahead, students, to another type. Another type of movement is abduction and adduction. Abduction means movement of a limb away from the midline. You see the example. Now, I am standing, okay? My hands, observe my hands, it is sideways. Now, when I am taking it away from the midline of the body, it is known as abduction. It is abduction. I am bringing it back, it is adduction. That means when the movement will be away from the midline, when the part of the body is moving away from the midline, it is known as abduction. When the part of the body is moving towards the midline, it is adduction. So abduction means movement of a limb away from the midline is abduction. Adduction means it is opposite to abduction. It is movement of a limb towards the midline. Now another type of movement is circumduction. What is circumduction? It is the combination of flexion, extension, abduction and adduction. Common in ball and socket joint. Circumduction. Just observe. I am rotating my wrist. Circumduction. So, circumduction is the combination of flexion, extension, abduction and adduction. Now, we have discussed various types of movement. Students, we have discussed flexion, we have discussed extension, we have discussed rotation, we have discussed about abduction, adduction, and we have discussed about circumduction. So these are the various types of movements. Next, we are moving to the third part of the chapter, that is Newton's law of motion. Students, when we are exploring the areas of biomechanics, when we are dealing the term biomechanics and human movement, it is useful to look at motion. It is always useful to look at motion through the observations made by Sir Isaac Newton. Now, Sir Isaac Newton has invented 3 laws of motion. They are very famous. This Newton was a famous 17th century scientist. So, Sir Isaac Newton was very famous during 17th century. He was a famous scientist who developed 3 laws of motion. His 3 laws that govern over our motion, they are the first law of Newton, we also call it as law of inertia. What the law states? The law states that a body continues in its state of rest or uniform motion unless external force is acted upon it. That means a body will remain at rest. A body will remain at uniform motion until and unless external force is applied over it. See an example, students. You can see football. The football is in the resting position, resting state until and unless any external force, we kick it through our legs, it remains at the state of rest. That is, the soccer ball, soccer is known as football, the soccer ball will remain at rest until force acts on it. Now, moving to the second law of Newton, we also call it law of acceleration. So, the second law states that the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the force causing it. The acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the force causing it and is the same direction as the force and is inversely proportional. Inversely proportional to the mass of the object. That means the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the force causing it inversely proportional to the mass of the object. Mass means weight of the object. As you can see, students, when a force is applied to an object, it will move in the direction of the force, and depending on the size of the force and the size of the object. That means smaller the object will move faster than a large object. So small objects can travel in a more faster speed as compared to a bigger object. Greater force will move the object faster than the smaller force. Some of the examples of Newton's second law, that is law of acceleration, you can see. The more force you will apply while kicking a ball, the ball will be moving at a faster rate. On the extreme right, you can see the lawn tennis player. So when he is hitting the ball, the force applied, more the force applied while hitting the ball will be moving at a faster speed. You can see the baseball. The baseball is being hit by the baseball bat. The amount of force applied on the ball, the faster the ball will be moving. Moving to another, the third law. The third law of Newton states that every action has equal and opposite reaction. I repeat, every action has equal and opposite reaction. If an athlete exerts a force onto the ground in order to push up, so example is when the runner is running on the ground, he or she exerts force over the ground. On the contrary, the ground propels, the ground pushes the athlete to move forward. That is example of third law, Newton's third law. Another example can be an athlete starting from the starting block. What happens? The athlete pushes firmly. More firm push is being exerted on the starting block. The better start can be availed by the athlete. Some of the examples of Newton's third law are balloon. When we are putting air, when we are blowing a balloon, so balloon grows in size. The swimmer is exerting force, so he is pushing against the water. His body will propel, move forward. Now, this is an example of jumping forward. What happens? When we are jumping, we push the floor is helping us to jump higher. So before taking jump, what happens? We are pushing, we are exerting explosive power of our legs to jump up the ground. Next is the example of gun. When we are shooting something, what happens? There is an equal and opposite shocking force applied by the gun. So these are all the examples of Newton's third law. So we have discussed three laws, students. Newton's three law. The first law is stating that a body continues to be at the state of rest or in uniform motion until and unless an external force is applied over it. The second law states that the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the force acting on it and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. The third law states that, the third law of Newton's states that every action has equal and opposite reaction. So these are the three laws of Newton, students. So today in our discussion on chapter 8, that is biomechanics and sports, we have first of all discussed about biomechanics and its importances in details. After that, we have discussed about the relationship between movements and muscles. Followed by, we have discussed various types of movements. Last but not the least, we have discussed the three laws of Newton, that is Newton's law of motion, along with its application in games and sports. So I hope, students, today's description with the help of videography is certainly going to help, going to enrich your knowledge, going to clear your doubts. If still after going through this videography, if you have any doubt, you can reach out to me, you can text me, you can call me. I will be feeling very happy to clear your doubts. Have proper self-study at home, students, because self-study is the key to success. Regular self-study is very, very important, because you all are going to appear in the class 12 board examinations very soon. So have proper self-studies, take care of your health, take proper diet. God bless us all, students. Thank you all of you.